Well, it's been about 6 weeks since my childhood PC, aka the £475 PC, arrived all the way from America, and I thought I'd do an update on it, right after this message from PCBWay. Our good friends over at PCBWay have kindly sponsored this video. PCBWay offers a variety of services from PCB production and assembly to 3D printing in various materials, injection moulded plastics and even sheet metal fabrication. They offer a very professional and high quality service for extremely reasonable prices. Check out a link for their website in the description below. Now unfortunately, when the machine arrived there was a little bit of shipping damage right here on the front. Luckily the pieces of plastic were still inside the case, so I managed to recover those and I've glued them back in place with some super glue. And whilst it's not a perfect job, you'll only really notice it if you study the case close up. From a distance it looks perfect. The case also received a retro bright because it was terribly yellowed and now matches the beige of the floppy drive and the optical drive. There were some scuff marks which I managed to remove with a magic eraser, as well as some marks around the side of the case. There is a ding on this side of the case, but I'm not going to be able to remove that. But I think it adds to the history of the machine. So the inside of the case was cleaned as well. It was very, very dusty, which is expected as the machine is almost 30 years old. I have completely taken it to pieces. I've also taken the power supply to pieces as well. I've had a look at all the capacitors in there. I've vacuumed out lots and lots of dust and dirt. And I've put it all back together again, and here we have the PC. And I'm very, very happy with it. Before the PC had arrived, I'd already found the service manual and identified that there was 4 ISA slots and 2 PCI. So that got me thinking, what kind of upgrades would I have wanted to put in the machine when I was younger? Now, of course, I did upgrade the graphics card back in the day, because the onboard 1MB graphics card just wasn't cutting it. I also wanted higher resolutions and higher colour depths. So with some Christmas money, I went and bought a Creative Labs 3D Blaster 4MB PCI graphics card. I have scoured eBay for one of those because I was trying to make this a replica of the machine that I had back in the day, but unfortunately they either want ridiculous prices for these cards or they're few and far between and they're proving quite difficult to obtain. So I did actually install a S3 Verge GX 4MB PCI graphics card. Unfortunately, that seemed to have some issues when I shut the machine down. I'd get some garbled messages on the screen and it would require me to power the machine off rather than just being able to do a restart, which was slightly annoying. So what I've done is I raided my parts bin and I found a 4MB Matrox Mystique 2 graphics card that's in the machine at the moment, and that's taking up one of the 2 PCI slots. Now the second PCI slot, I did hope to put a TV card in and then I could use it to capture video or use the machine as a monitor for my Super Nintendo or my Sega Mega Drive. But unfortunately the CPU in this machine is just too slow and it doesn't work. So I've taken that out. It means I now have a free PCI slot, so I need to think about what I'm going to populate it with. I've taken out the 28.8 BPS modem because who uses modems these days, which means I've freed up a ISA slot inside the machine. Now I did think about putting a network card in the machine. However, Windows 98 has some issue with this card, and when I boot up the machine, there's a significant delay. So if I take it out, the delay is gone and it's fine. I've managed to reacquire most of the software I had as a kid when I had this machine. So they come on CD-ROM or floppy disk. I think I'll use the machine without networking. So talking about the second PCI slot, I was tempted to put a USB card in the machine. However, this machine predates USB by a good number of years, and I remember reading about the upcoming USB when I had this machine originally. So to me, it doesn't really feel authentic. Whilst it is easier to get files to and from the machine because you just pop a memory stick in, again, to me, it doesn't feel authentic, and I believe that this was causing some compatibility issues with Windows 98. When the machine arrived, unfortunately, the CMOS battery was dead, which is to be expected as the machine is 30 years old, so I hopped on eBay and I bought one of these. Now, this is a Dallas clock battery, and it was used in a lot of older style machines, unlike the Coincell CR2032s that are used today. Now, these haven't been made for a good number of years, so I wasn't really expecting it to work. But happily, when I put it inside the machine, it did. So it remembers the date and time, and it remembers all the settings that I change in the BIOS. Talking of the BIOS, I managed to find an update from version 1.0.3 to 1.0.4, and I did that in hopes of being able to install larger hard drives. So unfortunately, I found out with this machine that it has a terrible IDE controller. And my friends over on the RMC Discord server have been super helpful in trying to work around the restrictions that the IDE controller has. Basically, it doesn't support drives that are larger than 2.1 gigabytes. Just like my original PC, this computer shipped with a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive, and this is a Quantum Fireball drive. Now that I have all the original software that I had back in the day, trying to cram it all onto a 1.2 gig drive is proving a bit of a squeeze. And as nobody really likes spinning hard drives these days, I thought I'd replace it with a more modern compact flash solution, which is my preferred solution for these older machines. Now I've got quite a number of compact flash cards here. I've got 8 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, lots and lots of 4 gigabytes. And the idea was I'd have this installed inside the case. I'd be able to quickly swap a compact flash card, and that would allow me to have a different operating system so I could have a different configuration. This machine's quite stubborn, and the majority of these compact flash cards come up as 58 megabytes. However, knowing about the limitations on the IDE controller, I thought I would try a 2 gig card and a 1 gig card, and these happily are detected with the full capacity. I've done a full installation of DOS on this one, and I've installed a couple of games. So that works quite well, and I can install that if I wanted to. However, after I got the 2 gigabyte compact flash to be recognised and Windows was installed, I thought perhaps swapping compact flash cards wasn't the right idea for this machine, and I might just leave it as a Windows 98 machine. I raided my parts bin and I found a 2 gigabyte SATA SSD. Now obviously this is SATA, this machine is IDE. We're going to need a SATA to IDE adapter. So you take your SATA SSD and you take your IDE to SATA adapter and you pop the SSD in there. You then connect your IDE ribbon cable and Molex, and you're off to the races. Not only is this faster, but it's also a lot quieter. There's no clicking away of hard drive. Copying files is a lot quicker. However, the curse of the deck strikes again. If you'll remember when I was talking about the USB card, and I mentioned I had some problems with Windows 98, well, it seemed to corrupt installs not only on compact flash but also on my SATA SSD. So I went on eBay and I purchased a 2.1 gigabyte Fujitsu hard drive, which is inside the machine now, and I'm going to leave it at that. Basically, I've tried dragging this machine kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and it doesn't want to be dragged. So I'm happy with that. As long as I know the limitations of the machine, I can work around them, or I can just live with them. Now this machine isn't going to be my ultimate PC. It just happens to be the PC that I had as a kid, and I always said that if I had the chance to have one again, I would go for it. It's not worth £475 in terms of the components that are inside it, and a good deal of that money was shipping from California to Virginia and then from Virginia back to the UK. However, for me to have this machine and the nostalgia that it invokes in me, I'm more than happy to have paid that money out. So I think I've talked about it enough. Let's have a quick look inside. So to get inside the case, there's a number of screws around the back, which I've already removed. And then you pull the case forwards, and then it goes up. At the top left, we have a hard drive activity and power LED indicator, a reset switch. We then have the PC speaker, and going down further, we have a 3.5-inch hard drive, the 5.25-inch quad-speed CD-ROM, and then we have room for 2 additional 5.25-inch drive bays. Inside you have the 2.1 gigabyte Fujitsu hard drive that I mentioned earlier, and then if we go around to the side, you'll see in the very first PCI slot is the graphics card. Now if we go down and over at the back, you can just make out the CPU and then the 2 RAM sticks at the top. This machine has 24 megabytes of RAM. There's 8 megabytes on board, and then there's 2 additional 8 megabyte SIMs. Now the sound card I replaced with a Sound Blaster Vibra 16 audio card, and that was mainly because the sound card in it, although apparently had very good DOS support, a lot of the games that I had I just can't get it to work with, so I wanted a Sound Blaster compatible sound card, and this worked more or less out of the box. Down here we have the light on power supply. We have the power switch just here, and that's pretty much it. So the motherboard is mounted vertically. There's this riser card that sticks out that needs a thorough clean. And I need to fill the 2 slots at the back with a blanking plate. So if we start at the top right on the motherboard, there's the VGA out. We have parallel, we have serial, and we have 2 PS2s, and that's about it. The rest of the ports can be found on the upgrade cards. So on the right we have the Sound Blaster Vibra 16. We then have an empty slot which will probably be filled by another card of some description. We have a blanking plate, another hole, and then we have the PCI graphics card. Down at the bottom here we have the power supply, and we have power in as well as power out, so you can daisy chain a monitor to the back of this, which is quite handy. So in summary, it may not be the most desirable machine, it may not be the most collectible, it may also not be the most attractive. However, I don't think it looks too bad. But in the last 6 weeks I've learnt more about this machine and its shortcomings than I did in the number of years that I had it when I was a child. I also have a deeper understanding of the hardware and its limitations, something which I knew nothing of when I originally had this machine back in the day. I've enjoyed tinkering and I've enjoyed playing around with the different combinations of upgrade cards, something that I would never have had the opportunity to have done as a child. So for that I'm eternally grateful to Blake for agreeing to ship this over to me. It will be included in a number of upcoming videos, so stay tuned. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.